Hello, my name is Dr. Heather Dartez, and I'm here for another episode of Taking Flight from Full Sail University. We're live streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook today, and I'm joined by a very special guest, David Frangioni. David Frangioni has been a friend of Full Sail's for many years now. He comes back to campus regularly, and I'm just very honored to have him here today on Taking Flight because you will be so impressed with what he has to share with you today and his background. So I want to start us off with a video about David. It crams 40 years worth of exceptional work in the music and entertainment industry and tech fields into 4 minutes. So take the next 4 minutes to learn a little bit more about David, and then we'll jump into our conversation.
Frangioni.
Who is David Frangioni? Well,
This guy is an American success story, an entrepreneur.
A freaking genius.
he's worked on very famous albums.
A, he's one of my very, very closest friends. B, probably the smartest guy in engineering that I know.
Great to have you as my friend after all these years.
He's an incredible engineer, great guy, easy to work with.
Extraordinary businessman.
This guy has this magical ability. Like, people in power gravitate toward this cat.
He's now in charge of Modern Drummer magazine.
I've had the best day, honestly, coming into this beautiful museum.
He's just a great all-around person.
When you came over, it was like the first thing that we used was the MIDI to trigger drum samples.
Yeah.
It sounded great. You know, it was a new language. And you were right there to help all around, right from the get-go, man.
That was awesome. I'm so grateful for that. I mean, we started with Pump, then we got to Get a Grip, then we got the big ones, then we got to 9 Lives, then we got to Just Push Play. There was so much tech going on. The backbone of the songwriting, we were like there, right on the front lines, you know, MIDI to audio and Pro Tools. And a lot of people don't realize just how much we had going on to make those records and to write those songs.
David Frangioni is a world-renowned audio-video integrator, producer, and music technologist. He's an innovator, a pioneer, and a man that some of the most recognized artists in the industry turn to help them sound, create, and perform great. He has been associated with some of the best music ever made, some of the most transformative technology ever developed, and some of the most celebrated venues on planet Earth. But that's not how David's story started. At age 2, David was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive eye cancer. Finding and focusing on his passion for music, drumming, sound, and performance helped David fight and beat cancer. This passion also brought him to study with some of the greatest drummers and begin a professional performing career at just 10 years old. David's passion for drumming and music melded with his desire to always be on the cutting edge of MIDI and digital music technology. He helped develop software and hardware like Pro Tools and Pro Tools Training, and went on to develop world-class home theaters and audiophile home automation systems. David worked with all the stars, not just on their music, but also by designing and building their recording studios and home theaters. He's also worked with some of the most progressive companies to consult, configure, and integrate new technologies, improve methods for the industry at large, and innovate surround sound and immersive technologies. Teamed with Ricky Martin and Desmond Child to build the first all Pro Tools studio, which led to contributing to their first ever #1 Billboard hit to be entirely done in Pro Tools. He has teamed with legendary artists and has helped numerous emerging artists and groups launch successful careers. And he's continued to follow his passion for drumming by becoming owner of Modern Drummer magazine, a media company that keeps David connected to the greatest drummers, best artists, and most influential executives in the industry. David has authored 3 books published by Insight Editions, including 2 capturing the films of Clint Eastwood, with another featuring his vast drum collection. Being one of the most significant collections in the world, was featured on Netflix King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch. David also created a nonprofit foundation so that he can work with nonprofits who help inspire children in a way that he would have been inspired as that young child battling eye cancer. Innovator, artist, producer, executive, collaborator. A man passionate about inspiring others to be great. That's David Frangioni.
Wow, that is such a great video. It does such a great job of
I'm
capturing.
worn out. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. See you later.
Capturing so much of what you've done. I mean, and so many celebrities that you've worked with over the years too, which is like so impressive. Can you start us off by just giving us a few touch points of the major milestones within your career so that our audience has a better understanding of who you are and what your journey's been like?
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, Heather. It's great to be here, everyone. It's great to be back at Full Sail. So the question, what would I consider some of the milestones, keeping it high level? My passion for music technology started when I was a teenager. Originally a drummer, and had a dream that I was going to be the world's greatest drummer. And that really was transitioned from a passion towards drumming to a passion towards music technology. So when I look back, it's interesting because if you'd asked me early in my career what the highlight reel would look like, and who really knows that early, right? We're all just kind of guessing or dreaming. I would have riddled it with, all kinds of drumming moments. And it's interesting that now at this current chapter, there are a lot of drumming moments because of Modern Drummer.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, the highlight reel really starts with MIDI. And in the 80s, MIDI, musical instrument digital interface, that was as cutting edge as it gets in music tech. And computers were just starting to be used as opposed to standalone solutions, dedicated sequencers, or whatever the application was. There were a lot of native dedicated devices. And then, of course, with home computers, Apple especially, it evolved from MIDI to digital recording, two-channel hard disk, which was then Sound Designer and Sound Tools, to modular digital recording would be part of the highlight reel, to modular digital mixing, to then Pro Tools, Pro Tools to Pro Tools training. And what ended up really evolving is when I look at my journey with music technology, it's always been about combining the artist and the technology. So when we talk about this famous artist or that famous artist, that only occurred because I was able to take the technology that I was passionate about, that I was learning about, that I was helping kind of evolve and even create future technologies from, and combining that with the artistic goal of, well, what can this artist do now faster, easier, or that's possible that wasn't even possible prior to this, right? Because even if you take something as basic, technologically speaking, as MIDI, the ability to record notes that are just digital notes, right? You're not recording onto any actual medium that is committing that recording, right? They're MIDI notes. So if you want to transpose them and listen to it in a different key, it takes 1 second.
Right.
Today, that's as basic as an iPhone making a phone call. But the fact that technology exists, to an artist in the 80s, as an example, that wasn't even possible. So if we take that simple example, but we apply it to as sophisticated and complex as you want to talk technologically, that's what the artists have always relied on me to bring to their project, to their career, to their lives, whatever it is. So as we look at this highlight reel, that's the context of everything. That's a very, very important context, because the technology without the art, or the art without the technology, is a very different world.
Yeah.
So when I took Pro Tools kind of to the masses, to the mainstream, and then helped with Pro Tools training, because I saw the need. As soon as we had this massive install base, it became apparent that there were a lot of gaps in how people could use it, because they just didn't know how. And there wasn't any education available to show them. And nobody reads manuals, right? You see the old commercials, the jokes of the commercials, right? The person puts a lamp in the ceiling and it comes crashing down onto the manual still in the package.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's kind of the story of everyone with manuals. It certainly was back then. And the manuals were 300 pages. So it just wasn't a practical solution, even though it was a valuable resource when you needed it. But we needed something that was much more tactile and much more immediate. And so that's where the idea came from, okay, let me put together Pro Tools training, which is, I went and got ProToolsTraining.com, and then we started Pro Media. And then I started to take that same passion, and again, it was artist driven. Artists were saying to me, look, you are into smart home, and we are lucky enough to live in these big, beautiful homes, and we need all of this smart home tech, but we don't have any solution for it. Could you help us with that? And that really began this journey of smart tech. So it's kind of where Pro Tools, MIDI, these other technologies to which we're referring are in the pro category. This other world is in the home category, but they cross over. And so that was another very significant part of my life, is building those technologies, building companies around them. And then along the way, being involved in sample libraries very early on. And as I share with the artist's journey of integrating all of this technology, it became very clear. And I think I was very inspired by shows like American Idol, where I would watch these artists kind of go through the process. And I realized, there really isn't a mechanism for real artist development outside of either a television show or a record label. So I got very passionate about artist development. I partnered with Rudy Perez, Billboard Magazine Latin Producer of the Decade, and just an incredible artist, innovator. And we created at that time IDA, and then that evolved into All Access IDA as it sits today. And artist development became something that I'm very passionate about, and that really has endless possibilities, just like tech.
Yeah.
And I think that's the common denominator you and I share when we're brainstorming ideas together. That's always kind of the common thread, is that there's this possibility that in order to realize it, you have to go all in, and you have to have tremendous imagination and tremendous courage to just go for it. And then that kind of unveils other possibilities, and then you just keep growing them from there.
Yeah. I think that's what's most impressive for me with hearing the story of your career, is how you would take on an opportunity and then to just organically change or turned into the next opportunity, right? And a lot of that was just because you were eager to learn about the latest and greatest technology, what was coming up next. And I see you continue to do that now. We've had the honor of working on some projects here at Full Sail with a band that you're managing now.
Producing. Star Ace.
Star Ace, which is a band based out of Brazil.
Yeah, great band.
A really great band. But it's just, you just continue to impress me, because I know that you've got your hands in a lot of different areas with a lot of different projects, and to see how successful you've been over the years. I know it's just because of your personality, your eagerness, your driven attitude. But I know you've also faced some challenges in your life too over the years. I know the video the video highlight reel that we just showed of your life mentioned you having cancer when you were 2 in your eye. And I can imagine that would be a real roadblock for you over the years. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you were very young when that happened, but I'm sure that over the years you've had to overcome obstacles because of that challenge.
Well, that's right. No, thank you, Heather, for, bringing that up, because it really has been a lifelong challenge. The biggest thing is when I look back at what my parents went through, because we were a very close family. My mom and dad aren't with us anymore, but through my life with them, they were so supportive and so crucial to any success I've accomplished starts with them. And when you look at their challenge, there's only my brother and me in my family, and my brother's older, 3 years older than me, and so here I am, their youngest child. They would always call me, their baby. And at 2, I'm faced with what was a life-threatening situation. When you're that young, you don't know anything that's going on really. But now, going back in time and understanding what happened, they were given these 3 possible outcomes from this retinoblastoma eye cancer that I was diagnosed with, which is either blindness, full blindness, half blindness, or death. And when you're faced with that, it is life-altering for anyone. What you learn as life goes on is that life is filled with challenges. All of us have challenges. It's not
important necessarily whether that challenge is as big as losing an eye and only seeing out of one eye as affected me from the age of 2, or whether it's something even much greater and more challenging than that, or less challenging than that. But it all kind of feels very similar in that it's a challenge. And we're going to be faced with these challenges. And what I've learned over the years is just how to get better and better at coping with the challenges and just living the best life that I can, and not letting the challenges kind of own that, because it's so easy when you're challenged, at least it has been for me, to fault to letting the challenge kind of win. Right. So that to me is one of the greatest gifts from the challenge, is just learning how to overcome it, because once that happens and the mechanisms are in place, I can contribute greater, I can do bigger things, and I can have a more enjoyable life, if you will, really enjoy all of the challenges, because challenges, on many levels are they are positive things when you see them that way. I love this saying. From the moment I heard it, I just never forgot that it's not punishment, it's preparation. That saying, like, it's such an easy thing to hear, but when you actually apply that in real time, you start to see everything as, okay, what's the takeaway from this? And I think the takeaway from my having eye cancer at that age and being given the gift of a continued life from that point, right? And being able to see, because even though it's only half of my vision, it's still great to see. And there's a lot of people that don't have that blessing, that become blind. And I think the biggest takeaway was urgency. That's what really happened in my life that early, is it became embedded in my DNA.
Sure.
That everything I do is with such urgency and immediacy. I remember, I've had the great privilege of collaborating with the lead singer of Aerosmith and the band Aerosmith, but Steven Tyler is the singer, and he's a very, very ambitious, innovative artist and person. And I bring him up because he used to always say, in the early days when texting first started, because I started with those guys in '89, there really wasn't texting. But then years into our relationship, texting became a thing. And he would say to me, and this is somebody who flies at, 150 miles an hour, and his idol is probably faster than most people's fastest speed. So this is a real go-getter person, and I'm really inspired by his ambition. But he would say to me, you're the only person that when I text something, the response comes back so quickly that I forgot what I asked you, because I hadn't processed the question yet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great compliment, but it really speaks to the urgency that I'm sharing. And that comes from that young age of challenge. So that's what, and I was able to see that and take from it and then apply that to other challenges.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And urgency is, if you just waited around forever for things to happen, then it's probably not going to happen. Right. Yeah. And I think that's where you've developed so many strong relationships, by just being dependable and on top of things and quick, which is great. So,
and caring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about your experience working with some legendary artists. I know you were even featured on the Osbourne show many years ago.
2004, 5.
So rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne.
God bless you, Ozzy.
But you've worked with Aerosmith. You worked with Ricky Martin on one of his albums that was a huge hit, but you did Pro Tools.
Yeah, put the system and studio together.
Which is amazing.
And got was around for Ricky. That was the time when he performed at the Grammys and did Coupled Life.
Yes, I remember that.
And then later on, so Livin' La Vida Loca hadn't come out yet. This was, so, you really have to credit Desmond Child, who was the person who brought me into that project. I met Desmond when he and I were both working with Aerosmith, and I'm forever grateful to Desmond. He's such an incredible person, and innovator and songwriter and producer. I mean, the list goes on and on. He has an incredible book out that's, you can learn so much from. So he's a powerhouse. And he, so I was working with Aerosmith in Boston. He came to Boston to write with the guys. And then that's how he and I met. But he had just moved to Miami Beach.
Oh.
And that's how I got to South Florida.
Oh, really?
Right. It's from Desmond is the person who said, come down to South Florida, help me with these studios. This is years before Ricky. This is now we're in like the early to mid 90s. And that's how, and now I've lived in South Florida for over 30 years, but Desmond was the person who first brought me onto the scene and was really there to give me great opportunities. And then as we fast forward, he was working with Ricky.
Yep.
And I had built these studios for him. And Desmond, again, when we talked earlier about the artist meets the technology,
yes.
and my role is that bridge and that even translator between, okay, they don't speak tech.
Yeah.
And the tech doesn't speak artist, but when you put them together, it's combustible energy. It's like, it's endless what's possible, and it's huge. And so, yeah, the sum is much greater than the part. So I'm the person who have been called on time after time, and am the person called on time after time to bridge that and to translate that. And so Desmond had all of this innovation and all of these ideas, and he knew the tech could do it. So he brought me in to actually make it do it.
Wow.
And that was my, speaking very basically here, right? But that's really what happened. And so Pro Tools was a big part of that. Wasn't the only tech, but it was a big part of it. And so we built all of these studios, and we're putting systems together that had never been configured that way, and just using the software the software had to keep up with Desmond.
Wow.
And that's what I found most of the artists with whom I've worked. When you talk about the list that you read off, all of those artists, Aerosmith, Ozzy, Ricky, whoever it is, their ideas don't think in limitations of technology. They think in the idea. And the idea in many cases is limitless. So now the technology has to be adapted to that. And that's where I love the challenge, being able to say, okay, I don't ever say it can't be done. And there was one time I remember that I actually said something couldn't be done, and then I was proven wrong. Because 30 years later, it could be done. And I'll tell you what it was, is when I first started working with Steven Tyler and Aerosmith, he said to me, can we take a CD and unmix it? And in 1989, that I just couldn't comprehend how that could be done, but it was my own limitation. In 2025, you can do it on your phone.
Wow.
And go so far with that tech. It's just laughable that the one thing I chose to say no to. But I will assure you that was it.
Yeah.
The other thousands of times, my answer was always yes. And a lot of the times I said yes, I had no idea how I was going to live up to the yes, but I did in every case.
Wow.
And I think that's really what it comes down to.
And that's a huge testament for our students who are just starting out in their careers, how they can bring value to somebody else's career, collaborate and work on different levels. I think with the shift in technology now, with more of a focus on AI, it creates more opportunities than ever.
Remove the limits.
Yeah.
That's what I want our students to take today, is remove the limits. And I was doing it subconsciously by just saying yes and then being stuck with having to live up to yes. But that's really what they have to do.
Well, yeah. And being creative on how to use that technology when other people may not have the skill in order to be able to do that. And I've seen you do that time and time again throughout your careers. You've told us stories about it. I want to take a moment to tell our audience that David's going to be able to answer your questions in just a few minutes. I know that's
our favorite part.
Yeah. He came.
I love when we answer questions.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit here and ask him a million questions, but it's always more exciting when the questions come directly from you. So I will be asking him a few more questions about his career, but then I would love for you guys to jump in with your own questions and really guide today's conversation. So David, I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience with Modern Drummer magazine, because what is your role, first of all, with Modern Drummer? And then for students who may not know about what Modern Drummer magazine is, can you give us like a short synopsis? Because I remember growing up with Modern Drummer magazine, and all my friends who were playing instruments, they had subscriptions to it. And I would just love for you to kind of talk about the impact that media platform has had on the industry.
Yeah, it's huge. Modern Drummer was founded in 1977 by Ron Spagnardi, a true innovator. And Ron passed away about 20 years ago, and his family kept the magazine going and got to a crossroads where they really needed it. It had always innovated, and it had always evolved. They were the first drum magazine, the first drum community, the first drum festival. I mean, you could go on and on with all these incredible firsts. And they were finding themselves in a digital age where they weren't first in certain areas and they really needed to be and should have been. But because Ron was no longer with us and he was the driving force, they wanted to evolve that. So they came to my wife, Carolina, and me and asked if we would be interested in purchasing the magazine and really taking it into the digital age. That's how it came to be. So now Carolina and I own it. She's CFO, I'm CEO. And our role is, it's a very specific role because it's one thing to start a company and to have a vision and to grow it a certain way. But when you're running a legacy brand that's this successful and this well established and well known, a big part of the role is evolving it very carefully to always maintain the essence and the soul and the spirit of the brand, in this case, Modern Drummer. It's so much more than a magazine, but the magazine is still an important part of it because the cover of Modern Drummer is, and the readers poll of Modern Drummer that we have and that they've had every year, these are the cover of People magazine if you're an actor or actress, or an Academy Award if you're an actor or actress, etc., in drumming. So we have to grow that, and we have to recognize that to always honor the legacy that's now 50 years in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible, incredible brand, and we love the drumming community. And of course, for me, it's a full circle moment because I was a subscriber, and I remember discovering Modern Drummer as a kid and mailing in the postcard to get a subscription. When that's how you'd have to mail a postcard in or a check. There was no online. Remember, it started in 1977. So it was all done by the mail. And so it just has this incredible history. But as we sit here today, it is very much a cutting edge 2025 brand and with the soul and spirit of an established legacy brand.
That is really incredible. The other thing I think that's very fascinating about you, and then I'm going to jump into our first question here, is you also have a massive drum kit collection from some of the biggest celebrities in the business. Can you give us just a few names of drummers who have drum kits as part of your museum and collection?
Some incredible drum sets. Alex Van Halen's last tour, 2015, he had 2 kits made identically. He sold one at auction a year and a half ago from the 2015 tour. It's this incredible, extraordinary kit. You see this kit, it's massive, but it's so impressive. And of course it's custom. And then the other kit of the 2, he sold to me.
Wow.
And Alex is a great friend and great collaborator. Modern Drummer published his only drum book that's ever been published, which is his Alex Van Halen Modern Drummer Legends. So we've just had incredible collab, and his drum kit is, one of my favorite and just most inspired drum kits. We have drum kits from Carl Palmer, who's also one of my favorite drummers, Buddy Rich, Louis Belson, Neil Peart, and the list goes on. Just as you said, these drum kits are so inspiring because they really were the kits that made the music that will be with us forever. And these are the actual instruments. And in many cases, they're one of one or one of 2 in the Alex 2015 kit. That's it.
Yeah.
So these are real works of art and very significant musical instruments and memorabilia.
Yeah, and just shows your passion and dedication to that part of the industry, which is really, really cool.
Well, thank you. For 10 years, we had a museum where we would have kids come in and play the kits and be inspired the same way that I get inspired by them. So that was a really great period of time. And then the drum kits ended up on the Netflix King of Collectibles season 2 show.
You can all watch David on King of Collectibles.
Well, you can see the kits.
And see the kits.
And it's really, it's a lot of fun. I mean, drum kit, unlike any other instrument, they're so vast, right? There's so many elements to them that, they're fun to see and hear, even if you're not a drummer.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's great. Well, I want to jump right into questions because we already have some that are coming in from our audience.
Great.
So the first question we have here are for those of us that are trying to build a career in music production, which we have a lot of students that are in our music production program. What is one thing that you wish you would have known starting out?
Well, music production, they want to be a producer, right? That's what they're talking about. And I think, well, first of all, I've been producing since I was probably 17, 18 years old. I got involved in it very, very similarly time-wise to when I got involved in music tech. They were kind of one and the same for me. So for me, I didn't go all in as a producer, right? Because I was so focused on the tech and integration side as well. So that's one thing I would do differently. If I wanted, if my calling and my goal really was to be a producer and that's it, in the way that the greatest producers of our time have made impact, Quincy Jones, George Martin, you know, on and on and on, these incredible producers, that's, you know, they went all in. So that's one thing I would suggest to do, is just go all in as a producer, which means you learn your trade, you learn different instruments, you learn enough about the tech to be able to utilize it as a producer, know as much about as you can musically, and learn the personal side of it. This is another big point that I want to make to answer your question, because you're saying, what would I have done differently? I learned over the years how important the personal side of it is to the record. That when you can console a singer or an artist in the studio at a moment when it's not their musical limitation necessarily that's stopping a take or stopping an idea from really developing, it's how they're feeling in that moment.
Sure.
And when you can address that and help them through it, that's as important as anything can be. And that's not something that's taught in a music production class, right? Because it's as much psychology and compassion as it is music. So that's another big one that I would really get in touch with, that connect with the artist that you're producing that music for, and really understand them and help them through the journey personally, professionally, and musically, because they all go together to get the final outcome that as a producer, you're responsible for bringing.
That's amazing. That's great advice. So it makes me think about when you brought Star Ace here to campus, and we actually had some students get to work on the Star Ace music video.
Yeah, 2 of them. Yep.
And Star Ace just released their first album on October 24th, right?
Yes, that's right. They've done some singles leading up to it, but the album is now officially out. Star Ace Real is the album. It's actually a song on the album as well, but that's the name of the album, Star Ace Real.
Yep. So you can see the video that was produced here on Full Sail's campus.
They're
both
out,
videos.
right in the middle in My America.
Yep.
They're both, they came out this year.
Yeah. So they were recorded in the virtual production studio. Really nice guys.
Yep.
Before our session today, you talked about the significance of October 24th. And that kind of ties into your experience with producing Star Ace. So I want to hear, can you share with the audience? Because I thought that was such a great story.
Well, I'll tell you that the story is that as a 10-year-old, Kiss was one of my favorite bands. I was a Kiss fanatic. And Kiss has had a 50-plus year career, right? So they've inspired a lot of generations. I was one of the, as it turns out, retrospectively, I was one of their first generations of fans.
Sure.
As we go through the years, the guys in Star Ace, who were a lot younger than me, were impacted, and they loved Kiss in their generation. Now we fast forward further. We're both Kiss fans, and I am very passionate, starting in the 90s, with surround sound for music. And I really dive fully into the deep end of the pool to learn all that I can about mixing surround sound. Then it was 5.1, and now we've evolved today to Atmos. So over the years, I've been called on to mix records in Atmos. Well, one of my most exciting moments in mixing in Atmos was I was asked to mix the Kiss 50th anniversary of their first album. So that was just such a career milestone. The album came out just streaming, but in Atmos. And got really great reviews, and it was just like a real full circle moment. Now we fast forward to I'm on tour with the band because we still do collaborations together, and they're on tour in Brazil, where Star Ace live, and we're not in Star Ace's hometown. We're in another city in Brazil, but Star Ace end up going to the hotel where the band's staying.
Wow!
And I'm there with the band, and I meet the guys. So nothing really came of it other than we met and, exchanged contact info and, send me what you've got, etc. Fast forward a year later than that, and we had kept in touch, and they presented to me a body of music that I was very impressed by. And I said, look, this is great enough that we can make an album, which is the album Real. Well, in between that meeting and then meeting them with Kiss, meeting them to start the album reel over a year ago, I was asked to mix in Atmos Kiss Dressed to Kill, their third album, right?
Wow.
So here we go again with another Kiss remix, and in Atmos, in another moment we're like, oh, this is incredible. I'm so honored. My 10-year-old self would not believe this, right? This is just, it could, if you want to say what could never happen to 10-year-old David Frangioni, this would be one of the things. And so we mixed, this is the beginning of the year, remixed the album, Charles Dye, Ziggy Laverde, and myself. We remix it, and it gets scheduled to be released as a box set, like not just online, this incredible, compilation of all these. We had outtakes, we had versions that were unreleased. It's a treasure trove of Kiss Dressed to Kill material, and it's slated for release on October 24th. Wow. Nothing to do with the Star Race release, which is also separately slated for October 24th. So October 24th comes this past Friday as we're filming this, and Star Race and Dressed to Kill 50 get added to Apple Music playlist.
Wow.
Both homepage.
Wow.
So I screenshot it.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I say to the guys, your inspiration, one of your inspirations, Kiss, are on this chart with your first album. My inspiration and an album I actually remixed is on the chart with the album that I mixed and produced for you. Like the whole thing is just so profound.
That is amazing.
Because it's all about passion.
Yeah.
And it's all about the fact that every element of this story just comes down to the same thing, which is dreams do and can come true.
Yeah.
And that's what both of those moments are for me.
That is just incredible. I hope you played the lotto that day too, because
I knew I forgot to do something.
Yeah. That was just incredible. What a great story, and just a way to see everything come full circle.
Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, you can't script this stuff, but if you do the work and you stay passionate, these are the kinds of things that can happen.
That is so cool. Very cool. So our next question from the audience: what's the next big innovation you think will shake up the music industry?
Well, that you can answer that because it has two initials.
Yeah.
And everybody is hot on it. AI, of course. Okay. I mean, within AI, there are so many layers to it. I think music industry is such a broad term that, we could look at it. Are we looking at it from the Full Sail lens of on the creator side as musicians? Are we looking at it from the design side, also a Full Sail lens? Because you have a lot of, manufacturing and programmatically focused students here. Or are you looking at it from the consumer side, right? We're already seeing the chaos from the consumer side that's getting sorted out, right? We're seeing deep fakes, with the visual side of AI. We're seeing music be released that, in 1 second you can, I get sent these all the time. Like, what if you took Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven and Parliament Funkadelic had played it, right? And you can create, like, using AI. I mean, it's silly, and I don't see the use of it in that capacity. But the point is that it takes 1 second.
Sure.
So the technology, one of the barriers to innovation is speed. So what AI is doing is it's removing that barrier. Well, that's a huge barrier to facilitate, to basically remove and or facilitate, to take innovation and essentially shorten the time period from the idea to the implementation. And I think that there's, I think we would have to really dive into more specificity on when we say music industry, what side of it, to really answer it, in a way that I could help somebody. But I'll just say, pick the industry that you're in, the application within the industry, whether it's music or wherever, and really do the deep dive on what do you want to see created? What is missing, or what is an adjacent technology that is providing a lot of value, but if it did this, it would provide that much more.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things we're going to see evolve, and we are seeing evolve right now.
Yeah, very exciting. So this kind of piggybacks off of the last question. And they said, this is from our audience. This is not exactly a question, but they would like to hear a little bit about how what your perspective is on AI music and songwriting. How do you feel about the use of AI in those areas?
Well, I think, it's like many others. I think there's two sides to it. I think that the side of it that takes the songwriting process and cheats it and basically creates a full song, which you can now do in seconds, right? You can not only do a song in seconds, you can do you can write the song, the lyrics, produce the song, and play it for somebody in seconds. Right? That's way beyond anything that anybody thought would happen this quickly. So that side of it is, dangerous, right? And we have to be careful. The industry has to be careful. On the other side of that is facility, where it's not dangerous, it's powerful. It's a positive thing. It's an incredible tool.
Sure. As
songwriters and creators, we can capture ideas and we can realize those ideas so much more quickly. And I can tell you at this point, almost all the time, I don't want to overstate it and say every time, but pretty close to every time, I can hear when there's no human involved.
Sure.
Yes, the average listener is just going to hear a song, but at the end of the day, when I play, let's take like I scored. There's a documentary, it hasn't come out yet, so I won't get into any detail on it, but I did the score for it.
Cool.
And that's the type of application where you'll see AI replace people very quickly, right? But when I played cues from the score that were AI, that I would say into the generator, hey, do this, have it feel like this, have it sound like that. And then I played the score cue that we did, that my team and I did. It was our cues were better every time. And that's playing for listeners. That's not for my own opinion. That's playing the two cues, going, which one, whether it's the director, whether it's just a consumer, just someone who's going to consume the content and just enjoy what they're seeing and hearing, not analyzing it or judging it or trying to understand what the components are that they're listening to. The human side won every time. And I think that's going to be a common denominator here. But there's a tremendous amount of disruption. And from disruption, always comes things that are very positive and things that we have to work through that are, not positive.
Right.
And that's where we are right now with AI. Is it's massive intersection right now between seeing this powerhouse tech that we have and now putting some boundaries around it.
That's it.
And some best practices around it, and then utilizing it. We're going to see incredible innovation at an incredible speed that we've never seen before.
Yeah, it's incredible. That's awesome. That is the word, incredible.
Well, it really is. It's something that's overused a lot, but it's not in this case. It really is incredible.
It's mind-blowing, the capabilities.
It is. And that's what the word really demonstrates, and it's all there, and it's just going to keep growing.
Well, and just like the examples that you gave throughout your career of like taking a tool that was very innovative and then having it do something that people didn't know or understand. I think that's where we are with AI. Like our students can learn how to harness it, be creative in the prompts that they use in order to get different outputs that maybe other people wouldn't have thought of, right? And of course, there is going to be some concerns around intellectual property and like different things, but as keeping that in mind and using it with the end user and the benefits to the end user in mind, I think that's the
and the programmer. Like at Full Sail, there are students that learn, how to program it, how to create and leverage models, et cetera. So the very geeky, nerdy side of things, which I'm very much a member of that club, so I say it affectionately. But that side of it, there's a lot of prompts as we sit here today that don't generate the desired result. So that's the opportunity for the programmer to create that, to actually put those models together that are sophisticated enough and creative enough that those prompts do generate a desired result. So is the tool available to accomplish that? In many cases it is. In some cases we still haven't harnessed all the power we need from the hardware side, but there's a significant amount that is available right now, and now it will come down to, in many cases, the ideas and the innovation that's seen not only from the end user side, but speaking from the Full Sail computer science side, from the programmatic side.
Yes, absolutely. So one more question on AI from our audience. How would you address the binary conversion about AI when there are actually great tools, but socially it's a barrier?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's beyond AI. I think technologically we're challenged socially. I mean, you look at, concerts, And how many live shows have we been to, right,
Sure.
in our lives? And you look at a concert now, and you're looking out at a sea of phones more than the phones block the van.
Yeah.
In many cases, and I mean, so there's a social interaction which is as visceral and exciting and in the moment as you can get. And people pay a ton of money and put a ton of time on both sides, on the performing side and putting the show together, and on the consumer side to get to the show. I mean, think about what it takes now, right? Between parking and the tickets and everything that goes into it and the time you put towards it. And then you get to the show.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're FaceTiming, and you know, so the person that isn't at the show is now at the show, but you're kind of half at the show, you know, and then the rest of the people have their video cameras out. The point is, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it specifically. I'm just saying that socially, we already are at a point, we're past a point where to find that balance between humans and these devices that we have that are so important to many of us and are so integral on so many levels in our lives, in our businesses, in our education, that, you know, that balance, it's way out of balance right now. I mean, that's stating the obvious. But I think, you know, the question is, how do you decide which ideas are worth? No, that's a different question.
This is a new
What's
question.
the other question?
The other question was
what are they really asking?
So the last question was about AI and how it, from what I understood, without seeing it here, but how AI creates barriers socially.
I think we answered that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think AI is just is a more expansive, you know, element to the existing challenge.
Yeah.
Because there are social barriers, and AI is just giving people more time on their device isolated if they choose that. Well, right? You choose that.
Yeah. And you look to, like, I've hear colleagues of mine who use AI, you know, students using AI. And if you become too dependent on it, then you stop thinking critically for yourself, and it can really be a challenge, right? So I think there's a lot of power in still brainstorming with people face to face. You know, we had a great conversation before our session today about different ways we can collaborate in the future. Yeah. AI couldn't provide that insight, right? That's something that takes
not at the same level.
Yeah,
that's right.
It takes a conversation to be had, you know. So I think that's really important.
Well, and I think that's and on that point, I think it's crucial to again find the same balance we're referring to on how much you just talk to AI and that's your friend and that's your, you know, your advisor and that's your information source, which is isolated, right? That's not social, right? And that does create, therefore, a social barrier in that regard. I think it comes back to the same point we were discussing, which is balance.
Yeah.
Utilize the tool, utilize the power of AI where you now have, you know, you had so much in your phone before, but now you have another level of it. I mean, you think about it. If someone asked me, well, if somebody lands from Mars and you have to describe what AI does in somebody's life, how would you say it? And you can say Google on steroids.
Sure.
Right? Because before AI was the tool, you know, behind the quest for information, Google was the tool. You type in, you know, how do I, where do I, when do I?
Sure.
And it would, you know, but that's so far behind now what AI can serve up for the same question, right? Yeah. So, but the core of it and the essence of it is the same. What people are now challenged with is if I have more power and I have more access and I have the answer to more questions, to your point, now I'll think less, I'll ask less, I'll collaborate and interact less. That's a dangerous approach because you're going to hit limitations that you don't need to self-impose. Utilize the power of AI. I'm as much a proponent for it as you'll ever find. And take the human side of it.
Yep.
And leverage the incredible minds and souls of people that can just bring great collaborative results.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I love that. So our next question from the audience, how do you decide which areas are worth pursuing long-term versus those that are exciting but unsustainable? And I feel like
Great
this you
question.
can really answer because because you've had so many great collaborations with different people over the year and so many different things. How do you decide what to focus on?
And things that I shouldn't
know?
have pursued, right?
Yeah.
That you just, you only talk about the successes. There's a million failures that go along with it. But you're right. It's a great question because you really do have to, again, it's balancing. The answer I would say that you have to balance with is pursuing your passion, right? It's like before you weigh the sustainability of it, you want to make sure that it's something that you love. What you then need to do to make a living from anything is make sure that there is some path forward to being able to make a living, which usually comes down to how much contribution does my idea bring?
Right.
And the greater the number that is the answer to that, the more opportunities you're going to have. So I follow passion first to answer the question, and then I look at the sustainability of it, but I don't overthink the sustainability of it because remember, innovation means that it hasn't been done.
Sure.
So you have to have a certain amount of courage to believe in it. And so I think there's, again, you kind of look at, well, some of it's just blind faith, but a lot of it is belief that there is a market or a demand for this.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing you want to look at is, are you too late? Because the saying goes, no such thing as too early, only too late.
Right.
And I believe that. That's a fact. Even if you're in the stock market, right, and you sell and you go, oh, I sold at 100 and now it's at 200. Yeah, but you bought it for 10.
Right.
So yeah, you could have made 20 times, but you still made 10. Anybody, with any success will tell you every day of the week, you were really smart to get out when you did, because guess what? Then it went down to 6.
Right.
And you would have lost your shirt. So too early is always better than too late. Too late, the ship sailed.
Right.
So that's what you really have to, that's where the sustainability comes in. So you don't talk yourself out of something that's going to innovate, but you also don't overlook something that you might have overlooked had you not done the analysis to say, oh, wait, you know what? This does, I get broad ideas and someone will say, oh, this is the greatest idea ever. And I'm actually, in some cases, I'll say to them, oh, wait, I researched it. And your idea is actually available now. So either you have a derivative of that idea or a different idea. Yeah. And they didn't know that. And that's okay, because that's the whole point of collaboration. But that's my point of sustainability. So in that case, had that person not asked me about it, had we not worked together on the initial kind of incubator phase, then they would have spent a lot of time with something that they would have finally realized, oh, wait a second, I'm late to the party.
Right.
So that's where the sustainability comes in.
Love it. Okay, so what was the biggest failure you have expected that actually helped you for the better and aided your current success?
Well, I don't have my glasses on, but I think it's just, what was the biggest failure they've ever experienced?
Oh, I'm sorry. Experience. Yeah. Did I say expected?
Yes.
Okay.
And I say that because that's
a big difference.
In this context it is. And I looked at it when you said it, then I looked and I went, oh, wait a second. Wait, if I expected a failure, why did I fail?
Yeah, that's right. No, what's the biggest one that you've experienced?
That helped me for the better.
Helped you for the better and aided your current success.
And you know what the answer to that is really? I know it's going to sound so predictable and cornball, but it's really the honest to God truth. Every failure.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that aided me is how to deal with the failures, because you have to deal with them the same way. And that's so hard.
Yes.
That is so challenging, because failures can just pop your balloon. And when that happens, you're just, the whole energy that got you to the point where you were giving it a shot and now it's done.
Right.
You can see it that way. But what if it didn't pop your balloon? What if it wasn't that level of failure? What if it was this huge lesson and this huge setback that was meant to either slow you down or it was meant to change your course?
Right.
Because the person or the company with whom you were collaborating really wasn't the path that was going to lead you to the next level that you want to accomplish. And that's what I've learned how to deal with failure, by seeing. And I'll tell you, I'm not here to say that that's easy to do. It's something I work on all the time. Because as the failures, and if you want to call them, I mean, right, the wise men say there's no such thing as a failure. They all call them lessons and setbacks. So I'll say the lessons that you experience, we get to determine what they mean.
Sure.
Right? Do they mean the end of the world? Do they mean my career's over? Throw in the towel, or do they mean there's something more to see here that you weren't going to see?
Yeah.
And I've learned that there's always something more to see, and it's very hard to think like that. So I have to say that I work on it all the time, but it's worth it because it helps me progress in a way that I can contribute the most, the soonest, and not get self-absorbed with, what happened.
Right.
Right.
And, I mean,
setback.
Yeah. And in my own personal life, I feel like my biggest failures have put me in a new space that ends up being the best space I could be in, And so you just sometimes don't know what life is going to throw at you, and just being open-minded on how to navigate that.
It was your
often a good
perspective,
thing,
right? I mean, what did you do to see it that way, right?
I think time and distance from things when they happen is helpful. Like when you hit a failure initially, whether it be like a business that's going over or a relationship that ends or whatever it might be, you at the moment you might think it's the end of the world, but then
take a
step back and gaining perspective and seeing what you've learned from that experience often puts you in a better place than what you were in to begin with. So
that's huge. And I agree with you that you're right, that the initial energy of it, you have to take in and just kind of let process, but don't react.
Right.
Especially in a really powerful way. Don't go too far with all that energy. Let it dissipate.
Yep.
Very important. It's why people, do some harmful things to themselves, or they say things that they wish they didn't. And, some really, really bad things can come out of letting that energy kind of run the show.
Yeah.
And your advice to take a step back and let that energy dissipate is huge.
Yeah.
I think that's the mechanism to
coping.
Yeah, to cope with it. It's just I meditate. I'm big on meditation, big on prayer, big on self-reflection and quiet moments to really let things just settle.
Yeah.
Because the world that both of us are in, and probably most of the people watching this, are very fast-paced.
Yes.
So if you're going 150 miles an hour the whole time, there's no time for an oil change. There's no time to make sure the tires are good. You really have to kind of stop and just tune up and just say, okay, as a person. And we're not taught that, but when we learn it,
so true.
When we learn it, it's huge.
Absolutely. Okay. So we have one more question, and I'm going to ask this last question.
Okay. All right.
If you could give any one last bit of advice, to our students who are just getting started in their careers, what would you say is the most important thing they do or take into perspective? Because many of them, they have no clue what's coming up, what's ahead of them. They've made a commitment to a certain area that's a passion project of their life, and they're dedicated, but they don't know where the future holds. So what's your last bit of advice before we wrap up today?
Well, none of us know what the future holds, right? So we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And what they have to understand is that if they stay true to their passion and their goal, and when I say true, as humans, we can cheat ourselves very easily. We can convince ourselves that we didn't have to get up at 7. We could sleep till 9 and hit snooze for 2 hours. We don't have to go to the gym 5 days a week. We could go 1 day a month. We don't have to study. So we are our own worst enemy a lot of times. But when we have that discipline and that passion and that focus and that drive to really care and put the time into what you just described, they're here, they're at school, they're on a mission, well, take that mission and really give it everything you've got. Do it with integrity to yourself first, and then with everyone else with whom you collaborate. Integrity is huge. And don't give up. Yeah. And people hear me say, don't give up. And they say that all the time. And they say, it's so easy to say. And it is easy to say, but those aren't the words that I'm sharing. I'm not sharing just hollow words. Don't give up, write it on a Post-it, put it on the refrigerator. I'm talking about genuinely every day showing up and walking the walk. and not giving up by not giving up, actually doing it, even when the data might say you're not going to make it. You're not going to accomplish that goal. You're not going to work with that person. You're not going to work for that company. Don't listen to the data, because everybody that works for that company or with that artist was where you are today.
Yes.
And the difference between that person and you, that distance, is achievable. But what you have to do to be in that place that you have as the goal is you have to be in the game. You have to play the game, and you have to overcome challenges when it seems like they're not even possible to overcome. And you're going to find that 90% of your competition is gone by the time you get to the finish line. They're not even there on the field anymore. Imagine playing a game, right? There's 12 people playing a basketball game or 10 people or whatever. And you get to the fourth quarter, it's a 4-quarter game, and there's only 2 other people on the court. You're like, wait a second, this got a lot easier because people don't persevere. So that's my advice: is you got to persevere. You got to stay in the game. When you get to the fourth quarter, it's just going to be the best of the best. And a lot of times there's enough there for all the people that are left, and that you will get to your goal. And you'll find that the air is very thin at 40,000 feet because there are so few people there, and you'll get there. So you got to stick with it. You got to have integrity towards your own goals and those around you. And you have to never give up with applying discipline and passion.
It's amazing. Well, that's a great way to end our session today, David.
Is it over already? Where did the time
it went
go?
by so quickly.
I thought I was 2 seconds ago. We were watching that long video.
Oh, but you did such a great job of sharing and imparting wisdom upon our audience, as you always do.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you so much again for taking time out, and thanking our audience too. You guys asked some really, really great questions today, so I appreciate your engagement with our session. We look forward to welcome you back again, David.
I look forward to it. Thank you, everybody, and good luck. Don't ever give up on your dreams. Dr. Heather Dartez, David Frangioni from Taking Flight at Full Sail. It's been great to be with everyone today.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a great day.